Good evening, and welcome to your forecast for Hurricane Dorian on this Thursday night, 9:41 Eastern Time. I want to begin by saying that, as you know, this week has been the anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, and so my salute to those in New Orleans and who experienced that back in 2005. It's been 14-year anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, and also this past week on the 24th, it was the anniversary of Hurricane Andrew back in 1992 that hit Miami. And so, ironically, we have Dorian coming in around the same time or a little bit after, supposedly making landfall either Monday or Tuesday, that Labor Day weekend. And so now let's turn our attention to the Atlantic Basin. We have Hurricane Dorian, a Category 1 hurricane. Let me give you a little bit background on Hurricane Dorian. As you can see here, Hurricane Dorian formed out in the Atlantic Straits. It moved through the Lesser Antilles, Barbados, and between Barbados, Dominica, and the southern islands of the Lesser Antilles as a tropical storm, a strengthening tropical storm. Some gusts reported in Barbados and other islands were up to 50 or 60 miles an hour, but mostly heavy rain fell, and the storm continued to march into the Caribbean Sea northwestward and attempted to make a beeline to Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico didn't sustain no damage, thank God. Virgin Islands sustained a little bit of damage, and they did have gusts there approaching hurricane force, 80, 85 miles an hour. But thankfully, no one was injured, no one was killed. And the storm missed Puerto Rico to the east, and only two towns, mostly extreme eastern side of Puerto Rico, and the islands of Vieques and Culebra and Loquillo, sorry, were affected somewhat by tropical storm force winds and downpours. So the storm is now about 330 miles east of the Bahama Islands chain and Grand Turks and Caicos. Category 1 winds are sustained at 85 miles an hour with gusts to 100 or 105 miles an hour. Um, in terms of the storm's forecast, let me tell you in terms of what the track, you see the official track here from the National Hurricane Center brings it into somewhere south of Melbourne, Vero Beach, Florida. This track, of course, can change, but let me tell you what's influencing the track. The two main things that are influencing the track here. Um, the Bermuda High, Azores High, what we have is flowing clockwise, okay, around the system. Now, normally the Bermuda High is in direct control of the storm right now. It's steering it on a west-northwest flow, okay? But we also have another feature here that's also going to be that I'm going to show you as well. The thing that makes this forecast difficult is that we have a Bermuda High here flowing counterclockwise, still in the storm westward direction, but we also have a disturbance here in the central U.S., the Missouri from Missouri, Tennessee, that's moving eastward at the same time. If that disturbance comes and it weakens that Bermuda high pressure, the storm will move a little bit to the north, meaning the Georgia coast and the Carolina coast should be more concerned, and Florida would be missed altogether. But if the Bermuda high stays stronger and stays in place through say Saturday night, the storm will definitely make a landfall somewhere between Melbourne, Daytona Beach, and it can be anywhere up or down, I should say, further down toward Miami, depending on how wobbly slowing down. Because the storm is expected to slow down to under 8 to 10 miles an hour by the time it gets hit Freeport, Bahamas, that northern Bahama island. So that gives you a day or two idea. Okay, now let's look at some maps here. I'm gonna show you why this is the case. Uh, the Hurricane Center, of course, issued their advisory at 5. We're waiting for the 11 o'clock advisory. As you can see here, once again, the pressure's down to 986 millibars. One thing to note about Dorian, I should say, is that hurricane force winds only extend out 15 miles from the center. So it's a very compact storm. It's very small, as you can see from the visible radar satellite here. From the water vapor image, you can see on the basic, I want to show you two things here, okay? On the water vapor image, I'm putting it in motion here. You can see that that's the water vapor. That's the storm right there. You see the darker green colors. The dark blue colors indicate dry air or dust in the atmosphere. Okay, the drier the air, the storms don't like dry air. So as you can see up here, we just had a front come through the northeast and provide dry air up here. So that ironically has helped to dispel this storm here, tropical depression Aaron, which is now moving out toward Nova Scotia, Halifax, Nova Scotia. So that's another thing that the people are not talking about that can influence this storm. We just had a cold front, a backdoor cold front, move through Maryland, the Mid Atlantic, and the Northeast. Okay, that's helping to dispose of this storm, tropical depression Aaron, which but should be out of there out to Nova Scotia by tomorrow morning. Okay. Now, since this front is dragging off the east coast, this storm Dorian will be affected by that front, and so that's why I feel like this track is going to be pulled further north in the coming days. Not tomorrow, but by Saturday, they're going to have to adjust the cone probably further north to possibly Jacksonville and the St. Simon Island, Savannah, Charleston area. That could be affected. Okay. The storm is going to be pulled influenced by that because it's a smaller system. It's going to be influenced by that cold front, like I said, coming off the coast, approaching Bermuda and Nova Scotia as Aaron is being dragged off by it, and this high pressure that is going to be retreating back to the east toward Bermuda. Okay, so that's going to allow the storm to lift even further westward. So I expect the landfall, honestly, at this point, northward, further north. I'm talking further north, not West Palm, not Cape Canaveral, Titusville, Melbourne, but more so further north, say St. Augustine, Jacksonville, the Sea Islands of Georgia, and possibly as far north as Charleston, depending on how fast that front and ridge breaks down. Okay. So that's the timing. Now, as far as intensity, I think the intensity forecast is pretty much spot on. It's going to be a major hurricane, a category 3 or above, you should expect, because you can see here on this water vapor loop, you can see it has nothing but warm water ahead of it here. The sea surface temperatures are 80 degrees and above, and Bermuda, all this sea surface temperature 80, 85 degrees. It just left Puerto Rico here, as you can see. All these temperatures are very high. So we have water temperatures in the mid 80s. You can see the wind direction. See these swirls here? There's Dorian right here. I'm parking it for you. This is Dorian. You see the direction of the sea surface is very warm sea surface temperatures here. There's no little to zero wind shear. Okay, wind shear is the change of winds with height and as you go higher up into the atmosphere. Okay. And so, since there's no wind shear and the warm temperatures, I look for a category 3 or higher by the time that this system approaches Bahamas. And it may not take off. There may be fluctuations because there's two things with this system. It doesn't have a very tight eye wall. The system is struggling right now to kind of organize itself and to get a tight defined eye wall because it has two eye walls right now. Okay. But once that ends, once that period comes out, and this is the front I was telling you about, then it should have a much better, easier time strengthening. See the front there? That blue and dark yellow represent dry air, and that means no moisture for the system to work. The system basically sucks up moisture and air through the atmosphere. Okay, the higher you go up in the atmosphere. So that's why the system, any hurricane, does not like dry air. This blue, dark blue, and orange, because that front just came through the northeast yesterday and today and provided us with nice 80s degree and 70-degree temperatures and maybe even 50s tonight for some places in the northeast, from Maryland all the way up. Okay, so you see this blue and this yellow. This is dry air, and this is the front. This is the front passing through, and you see Dorian at the bottom right of your screen here. You can see Dorian just now coming into the picture, 330 miles southeast of Bahamas, which is here. Okay, you see it coming up into the picture just now. See that front. Now, tomorrow is Friday. So by Friday afternoon, that front should be halfway here, somewhere around here. Okay, by Saturday, that front should be here. So that should help to lift Dorian even further north, and there's going to be a squeeze plate between this front that's coming off the coast of America right now and this high pressure that's rotating counterclockwise, like I said. And it's going to be a squeeze plate, a race between Dorian and that front to whoever can get in here fastest. Okay, so that's what's going to happen. And Dorian, like I said, Florida should be prepared, South Carolina, Georgia should be prepared, and North Carolina should be prepared for this system. But it is possible that this track that they got now from the Hurricane Center is going to could shift further north. Because like I said, the influence of the front, the influence of the Bermuda high pressure that's rotating counterclockwise, and also because of that weak disturbance that's somewhere over Tennessee and Missouri that's supposed to materialize according to the computer model and weaken this high pressure system down so that Dorian can squeeze in between and make a landfall. Okay, so that's the factors that we're looking at in terms of forecasting this. Now, I would say that we will have a better handle on the system. Stay tuned, and I would say by Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, they will have a better handle on it because the system will be further along its path. Okay, so that's when I definitely would tune into your local forecast and trust it more. The further days we go out, right now, the forecast is somewhat untrustworthy because it's already we're at least what from landfall, possible landfall. We're still 5 days away from a landfall on Monday or Tuesday morning. So I would get prepared, but I would better trust the forecast on Saturday morning because then you'll see the effects, like I said, of this front coming off and this high pressure. How we'll see the high pressure weakening, and we'll get to know what's going on in the midsection of the country and how that's going to affect Dorian. Okay, but you should be prepared because Dorian will affect somebody along the southeastern coast with hurricane-like conditions. Okay, and so that's the summary. We don't have any other disturbances going on right now. No tropical activity is expected in the next 48 hours in the Pacific, Eastern Pacific. You look good. The Caribbean Basin looks good. Hawaii, you look good. Nothing but a few clouds south of you. Nothing going on but Hurricane Dorian. Okay. The next advisory from Hurricane Dorian, of course, comes out at 11 a.m. and then 5 a.m. tomorrow morning, Friday morning. They'll issue another advisory on this system. Okay, there are currently no tropical storm warnings or hurricane warnings in effect for Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, or any of the islands yet because the system is too far away. That may be starting to issue for friends in Nassau, Freeport, Bahamas, or any of those areas. They may start issuing warnings for that as soon as in Friday night into Saturday morning. Okay, and then for Florida issue, they'll start putting up warnings probably coming up. Well, they've declared a state of emergency, but they're going to start putting up warnings for that probably Saturday night into Sunday morning. They'll start issuing possible tropical storm warnings and hurricane watches for anywhere from Miami all the way up to just south of Jacksonville, St. Augustine or Daytona Beach or something like that, and then they wrap it around to the other side to Naples and maybe for the people on the West Coast just for the storm surge precaution that may be there. Okay, so once again, Hurricane Dorian, what you should take from this is that right now it's a Category 1 storm. It's expected to intensify to a Category 3 storm and then eventually a Category 4 storm. The intensity forecast is a little bit more certain because we have all the ingredients needed for strengthening. But like I said, the track forecast is a little uncertain because of those elements. Like I said, there's three elements that I talked about. Right now, I can say that I anticipate for Dorian to move a track further north than in what they have shown us here on the current path. Okay, so those of you from say Daytona Beach all the way up to Charleston should be looking at it. Miami, you not out of the clear yet, but like I said, you have a less chance of seeing the worst of the storm because of the way the storm is oriented right now. And I want to tell you that hurricane force winds only extend about 15 miles from the center of this storm. And so that little core, that small core, unless it reorganizes itself, which it very well may do, that's another thing I want to mention too, okay? The storm is going under kind of like a restructuring process. I want to call it an eye wall replacement cycle, things of those natures, okay? And as it does so, there's going to be fluctuations in strength. Okay, so one day you may, a couple hours from now, you may say, "Oh, it's up to 100 miles an hour." Then it may drop to like 80 miles an hour. It may go up to 120 or whatever. The case may be is that the storm is trying to restructure itself and organize itself in the best way to take advantage of the warm weather, the low wind shear, and also the calm conditions out there in the Atlantic right now. Okay, so once it does that, Dorian will make its approach to the Bahamas, and then it will consider whether or not it wants to go inland or whether or not it wants to stay along the coast. Now there is a possibility that Dorian can miss all of this altogether. Like I said, if that cold front is strong enough and if the dryer is strong enough, it will interact with Dorian and actually push it to where it will just kind of skirt the outer banks and then it'll kick out the sea. So that is a possibility, but I only give that possibility a 20% chance right now because of how far north Dorian already is, okay? And so it's already feeling the effects of that Bermuda high, and because it already is feeling the effects of the Bermuda high, that tells me that the Bermuda high is pretty strong right now compared to the other factors, okay? So thank you for joining me. Look forward to providing you with another update. Stay safe if you live in Florida or Georgia or South Carolina, and be prepared. Get batteries, flashlights. This power goes out even if the winds are not strong. Be prepared. Get bottled water for everybody in your family. Have gas up your cars ahead of time so you don't have to worry about that. Beat the rush at night. Go out when people are not in the daytime rushing from work and rush hour and all that, so you can beat the rush and beat Dorian. This is the first of many storms this year. We're coming to the peak of the hurricane season. Peak of the hurricane season is September 13th, my friends. Somewhere around there. And so, this is hurricane season down south. So let's be prepared. Let's be safe. And thank you for joining me. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below, and I'll be sure to get back with you. And I provide another update for you, hopefully Friday night into Saturday night. And then from there, we'll provide updates as needed. Thank you very much for joining me, and have a great night. Bye.